Hey everybody, this is Courtney Rowland and Mark Passwaters here for the Aggie Yell F Word podcast. Mark, usually the F Word stands for football podcast, but we're going to jump right into A&M basketball. I know you were at that game last night, A&M versus Arkansas. What a game. What can you tell us about it, being there? Because I know for people watching from home, it was a thriller.
It was. It was a whole lot louder in person than it was on TV. I don't know what it is with Reed, but it does. The TV doesn't really give an accurate assessment of how loud it was. It was very loud last night.
Mm-hmm.
The fans were into it. The Reed Rowdies have done a great job, really getting the student body out there. Um, but it was a real gut check game. I mean, you talk about A&M already lost to Arkansas. That's a very talented team. It's not performing up to the level that it should. They got three, maybe four NBA players on that team. And, when they get out there and they have a 12-point lead and you're sitting there, they couldn't A&M could not buy a basket in the first half. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
they were right at the rim and just nothing would fall. And you think, this just isn't their night. And then Hayden Hefner hits that three to go in at the half, and then they just break out on that big run to start the second half. But it seemed like every time A&M got hot, Arkansas had an answer.
Mm-hmm.
And they sit there, A&M take a 2-point lead. Here comes a 6-0 run for Arkansas. But A&M just wouldn't go away. They wouldn't quit. And to sit there at the end and go, I think 5 minutes and 46 seconds without giving up a basket, that's really something else. That's impressive.
Right.
I mean, and that's what this team does when the chips are down. They find their way to play their best, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, this team has just made such an amazing change since going 6-5 in non-conference play. You never would have sat there and thought they'd be 11-2 in the SEC, but here they are, and one game out of first. So, hopefully they can keep that intensity up and not have a letdown this weekend at Missouri.
So you brought up a couple topics there that I want to touch base on. Let's just first get back to the actual game last night. You mentioned the three-pointer going into halftime. Was that the turning point, would you say, of the game? Was that like the momentum changed right there?
Yeah, I think it was. After the game, we talked to Wade Taylor, who had as much to do with that win as anybody, and he sat there and said, when Hefner hit that shot, as he put it, it's like we knew we were still good. And it definitely was a big momentum swing because you look at that, A&M came out and they went on I think a 14-4 run after intermission, but it's a 17-4 run when you take a look at what Hefner did making that three before the buzzer. I mean, it just kind of deflated Arkansas, I think, a little bit because they were looking at a 12-point lead. They had blown up that possession. Then Hefner gets off a screen. And it was funny because that was something he worked on repeatedly in warmups, was acting like he was coming off a screen and then
That's
shooting.
wild.
And he did it over and over right in front of us. And, there he goes. He gets off the screen, takes the shot, hits it. And Arkansas was, there was no reason for them to be deflated. You're still up 9 and you've had a great go, but you could almost see them sag as they were going into the locker room. And then,
Mm-hmm.
A&M kind of realized, hey, we can make a shot. And, they obviously went on that big run there to start the second half, and it changed the complexion of the game.
What I would have done to be a fly on the wall at halftime inside there with Coach Buzz. I mean, what changed? What do you think? What did he implement? What changed? I know Aggie's defense was stellar
Yeah.
like the entire game, but what do you think changed?
Well, I asked him that exact question post game, and he just said nothing. I didn't say much, Then he goes in talking about his big post-it note that he has that he carries everywhere. Da, 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 da. And I was like, you haven't answered my question. What did you say? And he just would not go into it.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing that they did do after halftime is they were playing a lot of man in the first half. That's their normal operation. They'll go out there and play man-to-man defense, and they'll switch. uh, you know, off the ball and all that stuff. But they played zone. They played a lot of zone in the second half. And as Buzz put it, the idea was they weren't doing a good job stopping their cutters. And
Mm-hmm.
that's true. They were driving the lane a lot. And but after halftime, probably for the first 10 or 12 minutes, I think they played almost exclusively zone. And Arkansas didn't really know how to react. They started taking a lot of jump shots. And I don't know what it was with the north basket last night, but that sucker was closed.
Yeah.
They couldn't hit anything there. Arkansas struggled with it. Now you go to the south end, everybody's hitting everything. But certainly the defensive switch, which Arkansas clearly was not anticipating,
Mm-hmm.
caused problems for them. And they just really didn't seem like outside of Davis, they just really didn't have their outside game last night. And then when he got cold, down the stretch, they were in real trouble.
Right. And previously you had just mentioned about, how A&M started the season and where they are now. And that is, possibly could be, fighting for SEC championship. Um, and going into the game, the Aggies find out Alabama loses.
Mm-hmm.
So where does it all stand right now? What has to happen? And can you even believe they're here?
Well, the answer, the second one is easy. No, I can't believe they're here. Uh, I don't think anybody can believe they're here, but they are. And for what has to happen, it would be nice if Alabama would forget how to play basketball. Because right now they're a game out. The final game of the regular season is Alabama at A&M. So I mean, there you go. It's for all the marbles if you win out. Missouri. I don't know what to make of these guys. A&M smoked them early in the season. They were down 17 at Tennessee, came back and won. At Auburn, who A&M handled twice, just absolutely blew them out by 35 the other night. I mean, who are these guys? Are they good? Are they not? I know that Buzz, I know Buzz is scared of them because he made a point of saying that they run more offenses than anybody else in college basketball. But they're so up and down. I mean, how do you go in with so much on the line and you go play Auburn and you get beat by 35? And that's after A&M basically popped the balloon on the Auburn Tigers, beating them at home and then beating them at Reed, and then Alabama goes in there and beats them again. It was to the point where Bruce Pearl was talking about we could go from a top 15 team to not making the tournament if we don't get it going. And then you get Mizzou, who was like A&M, borderline top 25, and they just get blasted. So you got them. Ole Miss is terrible. I watched them for a few minutes last night when they played Florida, and they're just not good. And then Mississippi State, 17-9 right now, but they're 5-8 in conference. I watched one of the guys on their website talking today. It's like, well, we're gonna get in if we go 9-9 in conference. I'm like, yeah, buddy. Well, guess what? You got A&M coming. There's your 9th loss. How you like them apples? And I think, I said that just kind of getting angry at Tripe, but basically Mississippi State has a really good center. It's kind of like the Florida deal with Castleton. You slow him down, you're good. So, A&M can't let up, and I think that's the thing that they realize. And it's like Buzz said last night. They've been playing tournament games now for 13 games because they can't afford to lose. And now they've got themselves positioned where they have a little bit of wiggle room, but you don't want to take that chance.
Correct.
Especially with you beat Ole Miss, you beat Mississippi State, you beat Mizzou. You win the games you're supposed to win. You still got number 10 and you got number 1. They're both at your place. So the opportunity is there for them to do big things. But, it's not going to be an easy task. I think that, I put in the mailbag earlier this evening, they could go 4-1, and I don't think anybody would be overly shocked. But 3-2, is not bad. But if somehow you go 5-0, wow. I mean, that'd be quite the story.
Stellar. Do you think maybe this could be the Cinderella team?
I tell you what, you win the SEC regular season after going 6-5 in conference. You're not just Cinderella; you own the ball. Yeah.
Put that glass slipper on.
Yeah, that castle is yours. That would be one of the most remarkable turnarounds in the history of college basketball. I mean,
Wow.
no matter what they did in the tournament, people would still, it would just be an absolute shock. I mean, this is a team that lost to Wofford at home. And, they're sitting here, Arkansas was a top 10. I think at one point they got to like sixth, maybe top 5.
Yeah.
And they beat them. They beat Auburn twice. That was a nationally ranked team. Missouri was ranked for a hot minute. They fought tooth and nail and had a bad game, but still nearly pulled one out at Kentucky. It's so totally different. And it's really interesting that it's not all it took, but playing Henry Coleman and Julius Marble together, it has changed the way the team operates. And you don't want anybody to stay hurt, but geez, Manny Obasiki's got to be sitting there going, "Are they going to let me play when I come back?"
Right? Yeah. So for people, I mean, I know most people who are watching this probably know how the tournament, the dance, all works and who gets in, etc. But for people who don't, and how the Aggies started the season, how do you explain the fact that here they are on the verge of possibly could be SEC champions? If that happens, okay, for sure they get in, right?
Right.
But if it doesn't, like, and the way A&M is playing right now, if you were to say today, are they one of the top 60 teams in the country? I think most people would say yes.
Yes.
So how do you explain how that all works, getting into the dance, if the Aggies have what their shot is? And
right. I think right now they're in. But here's the thing that just absolutely annoys me to no end is the NCAA selection committee claims that they do not look at conference play. They don't look at the conference schedule and say, "Oh, well, A&M is 11-2 in the SEC. They should be in." They're just sitting there going, "Oh, a team here is 19-7," and but they'll count the 6-5 in non-conference, but they'll oh no, we're not looking at conference. That's ridiculous.
And that is.
I mean, can you honestly believe that they would sit there and they're going to look at somebody like Duke and they're going to be like, "Oh, they went 9-9 in the ACC," and they're not going to. That's not going to play into their opinion and their decision making. Garbage. They're absolutely going to look at it. So pee on my shoes and tell me it's raining. But but would they do that to the SEC? Yeah, probably they would, because there's still an opinion among people around the country that the SEC does not play good basketball, with the exception of Kentucky. Even though Alabama is sitting there number 1, Tennessee is 10, but they're the only
I probably hate that.
Yeah, then they're the only 2 ranked teams in the AP poll. A&M is in at 25 in the coaches, but no other SEC teams are in. And if they could stick it to the SEC, I think they probably would. I think there's just a little bit of pettiness, a little bit of payback for the dominance that the SEC has in other sports, football and baseball in particular.
Yeah. Speaking of baseball, right around the corner. I know big expectations for the Aggie baseball team this year. What a thrilling ride it was last year, but of course they did not make it to the end, and that's the goal. What are your thoughts? What are your expectations for this Aggie, baseball season?
Well, they're obviously a lot higher than they were last year. I mean, they're either 5 or 6th or 7th in nearly every poll, and I think the pieces are there for these guys to make a run potentially. There are still question marks. I mean, you got Moss back, you got uh, Jace Laboilette, who is just a tremendous uh, outfield prospect, a true freshman, but he's already 6'6", 230. And you take a look at the stats that A&M puts out consistently. The guy hitting the hardest balls is his freshman. So he's going to be out in the outfield. You got Boast back, Warner's back, Detmer and Chris Cortez are going to be 2/3 of the rotation. You got this kid from Purdue who's going to be the third guy. The thing is, there's a ton of talent that I think Trevor Warner could have a huge season if he stays healthy. They're still young. They're really good, but they're really young.
Yeah.
It's like you got a kid coming in playing shortstop that came in from Arizona State. He's technically a junior. I mean, he could stick around. Obviously Laviolette is a freshman. They got some really good freshman arms. They got a kid that transferred over from Texas who was Cole Stewart's cousin. So I dare say that he can throw a fastball. Basically my big concern with this team is, can Jake Haas play shortstop? He's the kid from Arizona State. He hit 304 as a freshman. He had a $186 last year. Not so sure. And what do you got in the bullpen? That's my other big question. What's the bullpen look like? And if they got some arms in the bullpen, I think they're going to be good. No question that that Schloss wants guys that throw fastballs, and that's what he's got in his rotation. I'm really, really intrigued to see Cortez as a starter. This is a guy that was middle relief last year, throws in the high 90s. If he's got control of his secondary pitches, he could be nasty.
Yeah. Talking about all of this coming from Houston, Texas, I have to bring up the fact that the Astros are going to spring training. How excited are you for them, Mark?
Quite. I mean, I'm really interested to see, if some guys can take the next step. If Jordan can actually be the MVP, if Javier and Fromber can take that next little step, and somebody can really replace a Verlander, which is going to be hard. If that bullpen stays strong, they're going to be really tough. And I love the idea of having Jose Abreu at first base. They've got weapons galore, and he could just pop the ball into the Crawford boxes anytime he wants to. So, it's going to be real interesting. I mean, you don't just replace a Verlander, but
right.
All the other pieces are there. They're just 1 year older. I mean, so can you keep on, squeezing blood from that rock? If they can, it's going to be tough to beat them.
Yeah, a repeat would be so amazing. And it makes me think about the celebration that was after they won this past year, and which brings me back to the celebration that just occurred in Kansas City and the Super Bowl. What were your general thoughts on the Super Bowl? Just general thoughts. Did the team you wanted to win?
I don't like either of them. I really can't stand the Eagles.
Yeah.
Being a Redskins fan, I hate the Eagles. But I thought it was a really well played game. I'm sorry that the officiating had to get involved. Whether or not it's the right call, have you been making that call consistently all game? That's my question, and I don't think that they can really answer that. But I've always pushed for Patrick Mahomes to get his fourth star with rivals, and I don't think it ever happened. But I haven't been a big fan of him as a professional. That's not to say he's not a great player. It's just he's not one of my favorite guys. But I'll tell you what, that guy won my respect with the way he gutted it out and had that big run basically on one leg because of that high ankle sprain. For him to make that play in a critical situation, and it had to hurt.
I heard audio of him like screaming, and apparently it really did.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of guys think that he's soft, and he proved quite decisively that he is not soft. That took some guts.
Mm-hmm.
So, he definitely wants my respect. I mean, I've always respected him as a player, but that you have to respect on a personal level.
Yeah, definitely. I respect both quarterbacks from both teams on a personal level. Both of them I know like are big believers in Jesus Christ, which go them. Both are from Texas, go them. And I honestly think that Jalen could have won the MVP even coming from a losing team. So, mad
Yeah.
respect for both of those guys. While we're talking NFL and Jalen Hurts, who reminds me a lot of some of the quarterbacks coming out this season. Um, and being from Houston once again, Aggie, Gerard Johnson, now the quarterback's coach. Go Gerard! Like so happy for him. What are your thoughts there? And then also the quarterbacks coming out in the draft.
Well, first off, fantastic for Gerard, and I think that this is great because he tried so hard to come back after he hurt his shoulder, never got a real chance with the NFL as a player, but his how do you put this? His profile is ascendant as a coach. He has
Mm-hmm.
really shot up the ranks. I mean, he's gone from basically a quality assistant to a quarterback coach in 2 or 3 years. I
Right.
mean, Indianapolis to Minnesota, now to the Texans. And if Houston has any success, any improvement offensively, especially if they go out and they get a young quarterback, Bryce Young, then if they can go out and do something, he will continue to rise as he should. I mean, this is an extremely intelligent young man, very dedicated,
Works
uh,
so.
absolute class act.
Mm.
And this is somebody that you would want representing your program. You want representing your franchise. And for him to has moved up as quickly as he has in the coaching ranks, I think is not only just fantastic, but I think it's a sign of what's going to come because I don't see any reason if there's success with the Texans that he won't continue to offensive coordinator and eventually to head coach.
Yeah, I do hope that for him as well. He is like a class act. Speaking of Gerard, when he was quarterback at Texas A&M, NIL did not exist. So now let's go back to Texas A&M football, NIL, and not just that, but 12th man plus.
Yeah.
Mark, break this down to us. What all is happening?
Okay. It's interesting. When this first broke, I thought this is real interesting, but I also thought that a lot of other schools had gotten involved. After last night, we actually got to talk to the president of the 12th Man Foundation and Ross Bjork, the athletic director, before the game last night, and
Okay.
they kind of broke it all down. A&M is one of the very first to do something like this, where the athletics funder is taking an active role in NIL. Apparently, two of the other ones are Arkansas and LSU, but this is the most developed program that is in the NCAA. So I actually tweeted it out last night. You may have saw it. It's like in the arms race that is NIL, the 12th Man Foundation just dropped a nuke. I
Yeah.
mean, this really changes everything. And I think in a way, A&M definitely now has a target on their back because there are going to be opposing athletic departments who are going to yell and scream and say that this is illegal, it violates NCAA regulations, yada, yada, yada.
They will
Both,
soon be following.
yeah, both, uh, both gentlemen last night said that they worked very hard to make sure that it adhered to state law, that it didn't break any school rules, and it didn't break any NCAA bylaws. And I asked Ross directly, when you talked to the NCAA, what did they say? And he said, so long as it doesn't break any state laws and it doesn't break any NCAA laws, thanks for the heads up. That's it.
Huh.
I mean, and that almost took my breath away. Um, and I know that there are athletic departments who saw this come out yesterday and absolutely had a conniption. They lost their collective crap.
You
Some
have
of
to
them,
believe though that A&M has all their like P's and
Mhm.
Q's, I's dotted,
Yeah,
everything ready to go expecting people to come after them.
I think that, not only did they do that, I think they're daring people to come after them. I think that this is part of there are two ways of going about this. One, A&M is going to be directly paying their players through the 12th Man Foundation. Okay, not directly, but you know what I mean.
Right.
12th Man is a separate entity, but it has an exclusive relationship with Texas A&M. So players are going to be getting money from the 12th Man Foundation. That's path one. Path two is everybody else is going to lose their collective crap. They're going to get together and there's going to be uniform rules on how you can and cannot do NIL. Because, like Ross said last night, there are still 30 different laws on how this works. I can sit here in Texas and do XYZ as the 12th Man Foundation is doing. And over in Louisiana, they will do it entirely differently. Now, I'm going to take a cheap shot at LSU in Louisiana and say, they have no rules anyway, and they've been doing this for years. So the heck with those guys. But, the fact still remains that Texas A&M is going to do it differently than Arkansas. They're going to do it differently from the Clemson. And they're going to definitely do it differently than Miami, who is just outright just throwing money around through their big donors. But, the fact of the matter is that A&M didn't necessarily find a loophole with NIL and the 12th Man Foundation, but they knew what they could and could not do and did it.
Mm-hmm.
And now you have other programs who are going to be scrambling to catch up. And, once the Manhattan Project was done, or once man stepped on the moon, everybody else had to play catch up, but it didn't hold the same weight.
Right.
And I think that A&M can sit there now and say to player X, player Y, player Z, regardless of the sport, you have a guaranteed revenue stream, so long as there is support from the associate, members of the former student body, or fans of A&M. And as we know, that has never been a problem. See Kyle Field, see the new Bright Complex,
right?
See the new practice bubble, or not the bubble, but the new practice facility. The bubble's gone. So, and the question was asked last night: did you guys get any calls after this came out yesterday? Yes. Any idea how much money? They kind of hemmed and hawed, but the word significant was thrown around. So I would guess that would be a few $100,000 at the very least. So A&M is now in the position that critics thought they were already, in that they are ahead of the NIL game. They're not gaming the system, but they're basically they're pushing the limits because they know that they are able to do it. Let me put it that way. So they're not afraid to be the first one to take this step, and they're daring everybody else to follow them.
So is this kind of like we're imitating the NFL?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no doubt. I mean, this has become the NFL or Major League Baseball, without a salary cap, without a, it's not going to be that much money. I mean, Ross said last night that as far as A&M compliance knows, there's been about $10 million worth of NIL contracts signed by A&M athletes. That's everybody for all sports. So there goes your $30 million crap for last year's signing class. Didn't happen, Sorry to disappoint you. But, $10 million is still nothing to shake a stick at. And now you're going to have the 12th Man Foundation come in, and basically they have the ability to oversee things better. And this was the elephant in the room, I thought, last night, was that they didn't sit there and say, we don't trust outside sources to do this right. But if they really did trust them, would they do this?
Right.
I don't think they would. So not only are they pushing the limits, not only are they daring everybody else to follow them, but in a strange way, they're actually covering their own backside.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
it just like NIL itself, it's all convoluted. It can go a million different directions and probably will.
And it just makes me like almost just overwhelmed thinking about it all.
Oh, can
Um,
you imagine being one of the 12th Man Foundation's lawyers or accountants when they came in and said, "Okay, this is what we want to do"?
I know some people
I
who
would have put
work
my
for 12.
resume on Indeed. I'd be like, "No, I can't handle this."
Yeah, bye. Yeah, I know some people who work for 12th Man Foundation. Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah,
You had mentioned, just look at what A&M is doing, right? The new practice facility, the bubble is gone. What all is happening right now with A&M football? Where are they at? Tell us the new things, because everyone who was there last saw a bubble and saw a whole bunch of construction.
yeah. Bubble's gone. The indoor track facility is gone. That whole area is going to be part of the new indoor football complex. It's basically going to butt up to the Bright building. There's going to be a very small gap between the two. And so basically you're going to be able to walk out, go across that existing little sidewalk there, you know what I'm talking about,
Yeah.
and go into the building. Um, it's sucker's huge. I don't know if it's on schedule. It's certainly not going to be ready for the spring. There's no chance of that. But
Season?
I'm thinking, the goal's got to be training camp.
I hope so.
Got to make sure that it's ready for training camp.
Right. Yeah.
But outside of that, I think at the very worst, it'll be the season. Hi, Cody.
Hello, Miss Cody. How are
Yeah.
you?
Good.
Happy belated Valentine's.
Yeah, I was talking to Miss Cody today about SEC Media Days in Nashville, and since it's in Nashville, mom and daughter may come along.
Oh, how fun!
Yeah,
Nash Vegas.
yes, since Jimbo's talking first day, it'll be a lot different from what we're used to.
Right. Nashville is so much fun. You'll absolutely love it, Cody.
I want to go to Nashville.
Do what now?
I want to go to Nashville right now.
Yeah.
Got to go in July. That's when we're going.
It'll be better in July. I'm sure it's probably really cold right now.
Yeah, last night the Reed Rowdies put up a "Hi Cody" sign.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. That's
Which I appreciated.
awesome.
Yeah.
Let me finish this with Miss Courtney, okay, hon?
Okay.
Well, thank you.
Please look at my text that
I saw
you.
it. I saw it.
You're funny.
Aww.
Kids.
So how nice that SEC Media Days will be in Nashville. So can you talk about that a little bit? SEC's kind of finally changing stuff up.
Thank God I'm so tired of Hoover, Alabama. I could throw up. Nothing against the Winfrey. Winfrey's beautiful. And I know that there are guys like Brent and Barrett Salee who are upset because they're not going to be able to do their karaoke at that one dive bar. But hey, it's Nashville. There will be other karaoke. I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm really excited about it because for one, I've never been to Nashville. I know. I don't get out much. If I do, it's to Vegas, or Disney World. But so I'm really excited about that. And something different. Because when you do something like this, you don't want it to become a routine. And with Hoover, it did. In Atlanta, we've been there so many times for so many different things, including in SEC Media Days. The fun wasn't quite there. So going to Nashville should be interesting, get the opportunity to look around a little bit. And the fact that Jimbo's going the first day kind of takes some pressure off of me, because, you get those stories done, and then you can sit there and kind of decompress and you've got that. You'll have the three players, and then you can sit there and kind of game the rest of the week. You can figure out how you want to do things. Whereas if he's going Thursday, you just kind of push your way through with the other coaches trying to get to the guy that you're really there to see.
Yeah. Now, do we already know who the three players are that A&M is bringing?
No. Last year it was supposed to be Anais, Layden Robinson, and Damani. and obviously Anais didn't get to go. So I would think that he'll go this year. That's the strange thing about this is A&M could take the same 3 guys.
Yeah.
I don't think they will. But I think Fadil Diggs deserves a shot to go.
Yeah.
But I mean, if Jimbo sat there and said, okay, same 3 guys, get on a plane, can you really blame him? I
Right.
mean, I couldn't.
No
I mean,
training needed.
all 3 guys are very good representatives of the university. They're going to sit there and they're going to say the right things at the right time, and can engage and really make strong points. So I wouldn't be surprised if we went with the same 3 guys. On the other hand, if one of them says, I don't feel like doing it twice, then I would take Diggs in an instant. I wouldn't even think twice about it.
Yeah. So what's the timeline of everything right now? When does spring training start? And when did you say July something, I guess?
Yeah, July 17th to the 20th. Spring practice will start March 20th. So we've got
little over a month.
Little over a month. About 4 weeks.
What are the coaches and players doing right now?
They started fourth quarter drills, basically conditioning, hardcore conditioning work.
Okay.
They started that yesterday. They just basically getting out there and running, wind sprints, cone drills, stuff like that. Get your break in a good sweat, hitting the pads, stuff like that. I mean, they're not wearing shoulder pads or anything like that. T-shirt.
Sweating.
Yeah, they're sweating and they're getting their work in. So that started. I watched it very closely. They put out a little video on Twitter this afternoon, and I watched it. And I think I had my question about Jalen Preston answered. I'm pretty sure I saw him. So there's another wideout. But they're doing that. They're doing their weightlifting and stuff like that. But nothing, tremendous. It'll really get rolling here in the next couple of weeks, and then, get into spring ball and go through that. And then I think April 15th will be the maroon and white game. And after that, I'm just kind of curious to see what happens next, because they still have spots open on that roster, and they'll have a pretty good idea of what they have and what they need to get. And, they could obviously come and talk to me, and I could tell them everything they need to know right now. Allegedly, but I think that, or I'm hoping at least, that the slow pace of going through stuff in the portal has to do with the fact that they want to sit and evaluate what they really have when everybody is, well, not everybody's healthy, but the guys that they need to see are healthy.
Yeah.
How they respond to new coaches. Obviously Durkin moving to linebackers. You got a new cornerbacks coach. Rushing's moving over to safeties. You've got a new runnings backs coach. You got to figure out where Craig's going to be, if it's wide receivers or tight ends, all that stuff. What's the offensive line going to look like? And it's going to be tough to really see that, because I'm not sure everybody's going to be ready. I mean, they could have 4/5 of it, but that's pushing Trey Zune mighty hard. And Bryce Foster, I think, is still going to be a little bit away. You'll have Cam Dewberry, you'll have Layden Robinson, you'll have Deuce Fatherly. So you still got to see what some of the backups can do, what some of the freshmen can do, and you can evaluate what you need to do there. And you need to do that at linebacker as well. So, I think I am hoping that this is kind of an audition for some of these guys, some of the younger players. And if they figure out that they need to add to what they have, then they can hit the portal when it opens again in May.
Woo! So much to look forward to between just currently with basketball and then baseball and then spring training and then SEC Media Days. So much to look forward to. So, guys, be sure and tune back in to this podcast. Make sure you like this one, share it, and let us know what you think. And until next week, this is Mark Passwaters. This is Mark Passwaters and Courtney Rowland for Aggie Yell and the F Word Podcast. Mark, thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am.